Welcome back to Daily Flash. Shenanigans. That's what some real estate experts are calling the threat of a housing bubble. But are we truly out of the woods? Joining us to talk about it is James Rodriguez. He's with Business Insider. He's their senior real estate reporter. James, welcome to Daily Flash.
Thank you so much for having me.
So why were there mentions of a housing bubble, and why are some people describing it as possible shenanigans?
Well, I think when you look back at the past few years and the way that home prices have just skyrocketed, I mean, you have the typical housing price is up 47% from late 2019. And so I think, just seeing prices rise like that, people automatically think back to 2008 and they worry, are we headed for a similar crash? And that's when you start to see all this discussion of a housing bubble. And it's something that I've been asking experts for, really a few years now is, are we in a housing bubble? What does that even look like? And the answer that I keep getting over and over again is really no. And it boils down to kind of just the fundamentals, really the supply and demand. And we don't have the oversupply that we had going into 2008. And we also have way more demand because you have so many millennials hitting their prime home buying age right now. And so it's really the combination of those two factors. We can talk more about that, but yeah, no housing bubble right now is really the bottom line that I'm getting in my conversations.
And you mentioned inventory and, of course, a new generation of home buyers. What about interest rates right now? How are those interest rates driving the market, either good or bad?
So back in the spring of 2022, you had the Federal Reserve basically raising interest rates to combat inflation. And so, you think back to the winter of 2021 when you had these historically low mortgage rates, less than 3%. Those days are long gone. Ever since you started to have those rate hikes, we reached a near 20-year high, near 8% back in October. And so that's a big difference. I mean, that's hundreds or thousands of dollars a difference every year for someone paying their mortgage. So that really slowed down the market. I've referred to it as a housing market ice age because you don't have sellers who want to give up that prime mortgage rate that they got during the pandemic. You also have buyers who have been kind of dissuaded from buying because they see the way that mortgage rates have risen and they want to wait a little bit. But people are starting to get used to that now. Mortgage rates have gone down a little bit from that October high, and you also just have people thinking, okay, well, it looks like they're not going to suddenly drop dramatically. Maybe it is time for me to jump into the market after all.
I think it's tough when you look at the kind of down payment you need, if it's 20%, which I believe is the industry standard, to come up with that chunk of money, in addition to the interest rates that people are facing. I think it makes it tough for first-time home buyers. Do you think we're out of the woods when it comes to a downturn in the housing market?
It's hard to say ever that it's not going to happen completely. I think everything that, when you look at, again, the demographic, trends that are going on, you have millennials, a lot of them are at that prime home buying age right now, but then you still have younger generation, Gen Z behind them, which, isn't as big of a generation as millennials, but still a sizable generation, and all signs indicate that they want to buy homes as well. And so, and you also have, home builders are building at about, half the rate that they were in the 3 decades prior to the Great Recession. So, you have that slowdown. It would take something really massive, basically something that kind of spills over from other financial markets into real estate, causes banks to pull back from lending. So basically, buyers, even if they want to buy a home, can't. It would take something like that, and we're not seeing that right now.
One final question for you, James. I know that it's a struggle when people think, well, should I continue renting because, I can afford to pay the rent, but the rent's expensive? Or should I really wait a couple more years, save more money, and then invest in the house? It seems like there's a conflict there. Is it easier to rent? Is it better to buy? What's your take?
I think based on the way that mortgage rates have risen, it definitely makes that conversation tougher because again, the payments are kind of hundreds or even thousands of dollars more than they were a few years ago. But I think it's a very personal decision. It kind of boils down to can you afford to keep paying rent and saving up, or should you just go ahead and pull the trigger because it doesn't seem like mortgage rates are getting a lot lower.
True. James, great insight for us. BusinessInsider.com is the website for more information on James Rodriguez and his advice when it comes to the housing market. James, thank you.